Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Lisa V TV, the Speak to Transform. And today you're going to hear from a mindset expert who you are going to want to lean in because she's got a special treat for you today that you can partake of and learn all about how you can go to the next level in your life. I mean, this is the beginning of January. The beginning of January, everyone's thinking about what they're going to be doing differently than last year. Let me know in the comments if you're joining me live today, if you've already set a plan for 2023. I know I just did a preloaded year workshop in my Facebook group and helping women to kind of really think about what is it that you want this year? What is God calling you to do differently? So my guest today is a mindset expert. Her name is awesome Angie Engstrom. I love that. And she's on a mission to empowering creative entrepreneurs and professionals to become high-performing leaders so they can exceed their biggest health and business goals. Who has some health and business goals? Let me know in the comments if you have some major health goals and some major business goals, or even personal goals that you want to accomplish this year. Now, Angie, for the past 25 years, has been the go-to coach for world record holding athletes and entrepreneurs. And as a mompreneur herself, she knows a thing or two about wearing a lot of hats. From that experience, she's developed a unique method that empowers people to claim a new level of leadership so they experience balance, heightened levels of inspiration, and the clarity to crush their biggest health goals. Wow, we are in for a treat today. Welcome, Angie, to the stage.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
You are most welcome. I'm excited for us to have this conversation today. There's so much about you that I'm still learning. I didn't know that about you working with world record-breaking athletes. Wow. I'm not sure how much of that we're going to get into today, but definitely have to have you on for a different conversation. And I love your background. You also have landscaping background. So there's lots of things about this woman that she's like just a package of so much goodness right here. So Angie, I'm excited for this conversation today because I know that you're on a mission, as I already shared. And I'd love to start off our conversation today and just ask you, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and focus on bringing out this best inspired life in people?
Thank you, Lisa. I actually grew up in an entrepreneurial home. And at the time, I didn't know it was entrepreneurial. I grew up on a farm. And I never thought about that my dad was an entrepreneur. He never had a job. I never knew him ever work for anyone else.
Wow.
And I grew up in that environment. And being on the farm, I was out in the middle of nowhere. We had freedom. We could go play in the creek beds and go just disappear for the day. And you come home and, you just kind of know when it's time to eat.
Yes.
Freedom that I had as a child. And my mom was a school teacher. So I saw that side too, where she went, to a job where she had to go, what teachers do, they go work the system. And so I saw both sides. And when I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I don't know if any of your listeners have ever had that, where like, I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yes.
It's a big thing. And when I finally landed on my career choice, I just knew as soon as I graduate college, I'm just going to work for a few years for someone else and then, learn what I can and then go start my own business. It was just in my heart, in my spirit, I just knew it. And that alone, it's a gift. That was a gift that I was given to have exposure like that, because not everybody has had that opportunity to see, and especially both sides. I got to see both sides. So that's how I became an entrepreneur. Does that answer your question? Is that?
Yeah. It was kind of like, sounds like with osmosis. You just it just grew up to be part of how you do life. That's what a great gift indeed to see that lived out and be so normal that you didn't even think, oh, wow, this is an entrepreneur. This is what the entrepreneurial life is like. So I'm sure you've seen the good, the bad, and the great, in terms of all of that. How do you work with the people that you're called to work with? How do you help them have that radiant life or that inspired life? Do you have a process that you help them with?
I do, and it's interesting how I came upon that. If I could share that story,
Yeah.
when I was when my son is 20 now, he just turned 20. I don't know how that happened. Moms out there, I don't know.
Yes.
They grow up, but when he was an infant, I I I was always this really upbeat, positive, like go leader, just always out there doing stuff, positive, upbeat all the time. And when he was born, I like ended up in this other world. I was like my brain, like someone put this big bubble on my head, and I was like, like behind this glass wall. I just couldn't reach out to the
Mm,
normal life I had. And I know, being a mom, that's a big life change.
yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
big life change, and it hit my body, my spirit, my psyche in a way that I was like in this bubble, and I could see the world happening, and I was able to reach out enough so that I people kind of sensed that maybe something was off, but I was still functioning,
Yeah.
and I knew enough to not claim like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or whatever the
You
labels
didn't
are.
want to label yourself. You didn't want to label yourself.
I knew enough not to do that. And I knew, I could work through it. I just knew in my spirit, God made me whole, perfect, and complete. He would never give me something I can't, overcome and succeed at, because he's with me everywhere I go and anything I do. And I knew that. I just knew that in my spirit. Luckily, I was trained in that. And so I just kept searching, like, what is it that, how do I get out of this dark place? Because it was like, depression, anxiety, like the whole thing, but in a subdued way where I was hiding it very well.
Mm,
I was
mhm.
really good at it, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunately. And so it put me on this path of, how do I pull myself, that my power is in here. I know it is. How do I get that out? And that's where the system was born.
Hmm.
And I was even able to, it goes deeper with my son, because that was part of the pivot for me. Is my son needed some extra help when he
Mhm.
started going into school, and I had to like turn 180 and figure out, how can I help myself so that I can help him, because he's
Wow.
needing extra help as he's entering this new chapter of his life.
Wow.
So
Yeah. I always say that parenting is the best personal development program ever. It's like no one can prepare you for, no one can prepare you for it, because it's all dependent on, the little lives that come into our world and their personalities and all the things, the mix. But it's the most beautiful and most challenging thing as a woman that we can ever go through, but the most rewarding as well.
yes, yes, so many lessons. And when we have the framework of, I heard this once, and she said her kids are her little teachers. And like,
Mm,
oh, I love that phrase. It's just,
yes.
it's so true, because we learn from one another. It doesn't matter how old or young they are.
Mhm.
We can learn from everyone.
Exactly, exactly. So in that place, you started to kind of figure out some things and some things that you needed to do differently in order to show up for your son and for yourself, it sounds like, to be able to function at another level. And so you said in that time that's where you kind of started to develop this process or framework. What exactly was that? What would you say would be the end result of that in terms of a transformation that process brought?
The transformation ultimately was peace. I
Mm,
I searched, and I drove miles. I looked, I asked, I was doing all the things to try to
yeah.
figure out what can I do to help myself, to help my son. And it was just, you give a mama, project, like, all right, a dog on a bone. I'm on this. I'm going to figure this out. And ultimately, one day my son said to me, because we were driving miles, we were like all therapies and programs and doctor's appointments, and oh my gosh, like that's all we did. And any work I was doing and income I was bringing in was just going right out the door to pay all these professionals. And
I'm
like, we can't survive like this. I mean, and my son is the one that actually one day he just looked at me and said, I'm done with this.
Mm.
And most parents, especially when we're so in this momentum of go, 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 drive, 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 most parents would be like, no, I'm in charge here and we're doing this and we're going to, you're going to go to this thing because we paid for it or whatever,
Yeah.
And I was in this place where I'm like, you know what? You are right. I'm done with this too. And we literally just stopped everything. And
Wow.
that's when we found the peace.
Wow.
And it
Wow.
was peace. Ultimately, it was peace in our hearts, our mind, our house.
Yeah.
And it opened up this new layer of awareness. It's like, okay, we can do this without pushing and grinding and and all this go, go, go masculine energy that we had. There's
Mm.
another way to do this.
Right. Wow. And yet you still had to respond to the situation at hand, right? To be able to overcome whatever challenges were in front of you or to kind of navigate through that. And it sounds like that was part of that process once you kind of made that decision. Say, okay, we're going to do this.
What's interesting that happened at that point is a program emerged. And it was, again, all of it was everything that this whole journey of mine has always been these little divine appointments.
Mm.
And I was aware enough, because that's one thing. People don't even necessarily know what that means. Like if God's talking or a message is coming to you, like, God's saying, I want you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're so scattered sometimes, go, 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 run, run, run. We don't even hear it.
Mm.
And in that peace,
Yeah.
I was able to hear, and my mom was able to hear. She's the one that actually, she stopped by randomly. This is a crazy story. And for any of you listeners, think about in your life, like if you've ever had a time when like you get this thought and you're like, I wonder. And it involves several people because my mom got this thought, let me stop and look at this place, because she had never stopped there before. She didn't know what it was. They ended up giving her a book, and he said, give this to your daughter. And I read it. I made calls, and I followed this little trail of breadcrumbs.
So
And
good.
it was the most expensive investment ever of all the things we were trying. But it was the exact same thing we were already doing.
Wow.
Just in one systemized package. They had it all put together in a way
Yeah.
that was digestible, was trackable, the
Hmm.
data, the science, everything was there, but the price tag was like way up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after all this investment and grinding and running, and I'm like, you know what? It makes so much sense to let's just take the leap. And God obviously worked really hard to give me these little breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And it was a leap of faith. But that system that they put together for him was the ultimate. That's the one that helped us the most.
Wow. Wow. So what do you see as the main things that hold people back?
um, there's okay. The main things. Okay, there's the trick. The main thing. There's a lot. There's so many hidden things.
Maybe give me one or two. Just one top two.
Yeah, I know. There's so many. Um, what's interesting is people don't make they make decisions, but they're making them in a way that they're solving problems and not staying in that creative structure. That to me is the number one problem, that the challenge that I see people run into, and they don't even know they're doing it. And that's what I was doing, because I was trying to solve this problem of depression or anxiety and like thinking
Yeah.
of my child. I was trying to solve these problems. Think about health right now. People are trying to lose weight and exercise more, and like, how do I like lose this 50 pounds or whatever, we're trying to solve problems rather than create our body the way God, wanted us. I mean, we've been given free will
Okay.
to speak life into our bodies.
I
We can
love that.
talk to ourselves, light them up.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of crazy things that we can be doing rather than solving problems.
I love that. I love that reframing because that's one of the things that I developed over the years as well, as because I came from a place where I was terrified to speak, deathly afraid to speak. And, God in his humor and his amazingness said, okay, you're called to speak. And I had to learn how to, instead of focus on, minimizing the fear or stopping the fear, it was on building the confidence
Yes.
and creating what need to be created in me in order to be able to step into that place with confidence. So I love what you just said there, and that shift in the perspective and that reframing. I'm sure it brings so much freedom. So what else holds women back? If they're, if that is one thing where they're so focused on the reactionary of got to stop this, got to overcome this, whatever. But what are some other things?
The flip side to that is they're stuck where they're at right now.
Mm.
And they can't get over this idea that, oh, it'll be better when it, when I lose this weight, it'll be better. When I exercise more, it'll
Okay.
be better.
Yes.
And if we can't find peace where in our body, in our life, where we are now, and be okay with it, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, my arm hurts today. Like, it's kind of annoying, but and obviously, if it's something critical, you go to a specialist and
Yes.
do something about it. But if you've ruled all the medical out, then it's like, okay, you know what? Let's see tomorrow. Is the arm going to be okay? And let's focus on what we want rather than this pain. Like, oh no, and then we're so eager to call the
Mm.
doctor or whatever because we want to get better rather than be okay with where we are right now. Does that make
Right.
sense? I kind of
Yeah.
twisted a few things in there a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's a big one that I think people don't realize. Same thing with raising kids. It's like, like, oh, there's a lot of work when they're at this age, but when they're in teenagers, it'll be much better. Or when they're
Right.
out of the house, it'll be better. And we're totally not giving any power to where we are right now. That's all we have is the present moment.
To being present. Yeah. So kind of putting life on hold in some respect until something changes rather than making life where you are and
Exactly.
embracing it. And the other thing that came to my mind when you were talking is, and I don't remember where the quote first originated, but basically what you focus on expands, right? In terms of
Yes.
where you put your focus. And sounds like that frustration and that creating that place of being stuck is because we're focusing on the wrong things.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I know that this is something that many, many would benefit from. I wish I had people like you in my life when I was going through stuff like this. And now I know you, and I know where to go when I do get stuck again. But what should the listeners do? Well, first of all, before we go there, Angie, I want to know, can you just kind of describe who are the kind of people that you work with and that would best benefit from what you offer?
Yeah, it's the best people that they kind of find me. It's really interesting. And so when I've looked at that, it's always people that you've tried everything. You've read the books, you've gone, just like my story. You've gone to the doctors, you've done the thing, you've chased down every possible thing, and you're like still stuck in this chronic pain or whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, there's gotta be something. And you're at this point where you don't want to settle because there's gotta be a way. That's usually when people find me. That's usually when I get the knock on the door, the phone call. And that's when I do my best work with people, when they're at that point and they're finally done with chasing the shiny objects or driving those miles, just like my son said, done with this, and we're going for this one way that is proven to work. And that's where my work comes in the best. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Now you have something coming up that people can can engage with to find out more about this process and how they can learn from you in this way. And I don't know if your champion code is a part of what you're going to share in that space, but how, if people are listening today and they're like, yes, I want to know what you did and how you did it, because I'm in that place, I need that. What would you encourage them to do?
Yes, I have. I put together a masterclass because it's just so much easier to just get in a room. We're in a Zoom room and we talk about this, and it's face to face with cameras where you can ask. I'll go through the champion code like you had said, and you can ask your questions right there, which is super cool. Because that's what I've found is we don't need more information necessarily. I believe everybody has the power within. They know what they want. They may not be able to articulate it yet, but they're drawn to certain things, and I'm able to come in and draw that out of you through this masterclass process, the whole transformational process. That by the end of that time together in that class, you will have an actual roadmap to your next best step.
Nice.
Because that's part of it, is like deciding, like, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I stop? What do I start? And it's a process that right there in that masterclass, we can get you to that one thing. You could be certain that, okay, this is the step I'm going to take. And it came from them. It's not me saying you got to take these pills and like do this workout. And like, it's none of that stuff. It's literally extracting the brilliance and just the essence of you, because but we need, like, just like you alluded to, Lisa, earlier, we need one another. Because I have a mountain, and I can't see all the parts of my mountain, but you can see everything around, And the same thing for you. Like, I see your mountain, you can't see all your parts, but we need one another. That's just how God made us.
Exactly. Yeah, no, so good. So what you're saying is, for people who maybe feel stuck in any area, it's not just in, say, for their parenting or health, but in any area, this can help them.
That's what's brilliant. We're going to focus a little bit more on health in this particular masterclass that I'm doing recently, but it transforms all areas of success. Anything you want, like, It could be relationships, it could be your finances, it could be your relationship with money, your relationship with yourself. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Like, this framework is so simple that it can be laid upon anything that your heart desires, that you feel God is calling you, and it's like, what's the next step? And but you've got all this noise, and how do I calm this down so that I can hear God's voice, and then actually take that step that God's telling me to take? Like, that's what we massage through in that class. That clarity.
The clarity, yeah, because often that's the hardest part, is knowing what is the next step. Wow, this is brilliant. Well, I'm definitely going to be there. So let me put the link down below where people can find you. Let me just make sure.
It's inspiredlifelive.com/Lisa.
There it is.
inspiredlifelive.com/Lisa. There it is.
There it is. And you can go, and what will people find when they go there? What is that to?
Oh yeah, it's a page where you'll see my face, and it has a few little words on there, just kind of a rough idea of what it's about, and just click the big, I think it's a red button, and just put your name and email in there. If you want to put your phone number in there, that's just for texting. I always love that. Like, remind me when this thing is again.
So this is is this a paid masterclass?
It is. Right now it's free.
Perfect.
Yeah, so anybody can come. If this is resonating with you, if you're listening to this right now, and if it's resonating with you, I challenge you to, and this might be a little bold. Is it okay if I'm a little bold?
Absolutely, go for it.
If this is speaking to anyone, like, oh my gosh, like, I've had this chronic pain or this ailment, or like this challenge with my child, or whatever it is, if there's something really speaking to you right now about what you've been hearing, to me, that's a symbol. Like, you know what? I'm going to just change my schedule and I'm going to show up, because action, taking action is powerful. And that's that ultimately is what I teach, is how to get rid of the noise, and just let go of what you need to let go of, get into that peaceful zone, and like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't I go to this event?
That's so good.
Yeah.
And that's coming up really soon.
Yes.
This week, on Thursday, is the and what should, right? So when you go to that page, you'll find out all the details, the date, and everything. It's a 4-hour masterclass, and I'm going to be there. I'm excited to learn all about this process because, as you're talking, it's not like we get in one time in life we're stuck and then we're never stuck. We learn something. There's seasons of our life in different areas that we get stuck for maybe similar reasons, but we just kind of need to redo this whole process again. So to be able to kind of learn something that is duplicatable is powerful.
Absolutely. Because every time we do anything, we've just grown, and now we're a new person, essentially. And then you could read the same book or go to the same type of lecture again, and it's like, oh, I didn't hear that last time, because you're a new person now. You're addressing it with new experience, and the basics. Here's a story. If I can share this real quick from Oprah. I saw this on Oprah, and this was so powerful for me. She had a mom on there, actually, and it's kind of a sad story, but her son was dying. He was on his deathbed, and she told a story about how he was laying in bed. She crawled into bed with him, and it was his last breaths. She didn't really know that, but that's what was happening. It was his last breaths, and he looked up at her and he said, "Mommy, it was all so simple. Mommy, it was all so, so simple." And he closed his eyes and he died.
Wow.
And I just remember that episode. I'm thinking, my gosh, we're making out this whole thing of life so complicated when it's really all so simple. And as humans, we want all the stuff and the dazzling things, but then we're sacrificing the basics.
Right. Yeah.
What do you want? Be okay with where you're at right now, and then take that next obvious action step. Come at it from a place of peace. And all these parts need to be cultivated and monitored and loved and filled. And it's a constant all the time. And we need one another to draw the best out of each one of us. And I love doing that. That's my work. I help bring the awesomeness out of everyone. It's already there. I'm just coming along and help pull it to the surface.
That's so good. Well, thank you so much, Angie, for this great conversation, for letting us know part of your journey and the gift that you bring to the world. And those who are listening today, if at any stage, or if you know that this is something that you can benefit from, either because you feel stuck today, and particularly if you feel stuck today in any area, or you have a fear of even stepping into something that is unknown, but you know that that's kind of where you need to go, but you're struggling with that. I want to encourage you to go to inspiredlifelive.com/Lisa and register for this free masterclass. This is a gift for you to start off your new year with a process, with a framework, with tools to help you in every area of life to get unstuck and to move forward in the fullness of all God has called you. Thank you so much, Angie. I look forward to connecting with you on Thursday. And we will put the link down below as well. And make sure you reach out to Angie, because she is like, we have only, when she talks about this mountain, we've only chipped one little side of her today. There's a whole lot of stuff there that she has that God has just given her to pass along to us. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you again, Angie.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. I honor the awesomeness in all of you. I appreciate you so much. And it's in there. You've got greatness in there.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. So make sure you go to that link and you register and tell your friends. And maybe you're not in that place, but you know people in your life who are. I want to encourage you to go there and give them the gift of a link to be able to register for something that's going to help them move forward in a very strategic way. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time in the next episode. Have a